Christ will pray with us during our hearts. Amen. Amen. Thank you so much. Apologies for starting a little bit late. We wanted to ensure that each and every stakeholder is represented, and now that everyone is here, I believe we can move forward with our program. The Vice Chapter President, Dr. Annie Kamochewe, the Executive Director, Programs Manager for Transparency International Zambia, colleagues from the media, representatives from the Anti-Corruption Commission, let me say all protocols observed. It is now that point. Yesterday you noticed that we had the anti-corruption conference where we were restocking, rethinking all the strategies that we put 20 years before. But today we want to carry on that message that came from the conference to re-echo it and ensure that it reaches the four corners of this country. So before we have the keynote speech, I call upon the Executive Director to give his opening remarks.
Thank you so much, Charles, and good morning, colleagues, once again. I'd like to welcome you again to Tiz this morning, and thank you so much for being part of our events today. The UN Day of the UN Anti-Corruption Day is a very important day to us as Transparency International Zambia. And of course, this year, the commemoration is a bit maybe low-key, if I can call it that. Obviously, because of what is happening with the COVID pandemic. I think usually there would be a march past or things like that, but I think it's a bit more low-key this year because of that reason. But it still is important that we commemorate this day because, as we know, corruption is an issue that affects all of us. And so we are very grateful that you've still been able to join us today. Like the moderator has mentioned, we did have the inaugural Zambia Anti-Corruption Conference yesterday, and our statement today is going to touch a bit about what came out of that event. So thank you so much for being here, and without further ado, it is now my honor to introduce the Chapter Vice President for Transparency International Zambia, Dr. Annie Chewe, to make our statement for today. Dr. Chewe.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our occasion today. We are pleased to have you here. All protocols observed. I bring warm greetings from the Chapter President, Mr. Annie Kamochewe, who is unable to be with us this morning because of other commitments. As already introduced, my name is Annie Chewe, and I'm the Vice Chapter President of TIZ. Our statement goes as follows. As Transparency International, the International Anti-Corruption Day is an important day on our calendar because we are an institution engaged in the fight against corruption. The year 2020 is particularly an important year for us. As an organization, we have achieved one milestone through holding the Anti-Corruption Conference. We also have clocked 20 years of fighting corruption in this country. Yesterday, the 8th of December 2020, we held the first ever Anti-Corruption Conference, which drew participants from many institutions and organizations, both government and private sector. We shared a lot of information and strategies in the fight against corruption in Zambia. Briefly, the Anti-Corruption Conference looked at the spectrum of address, emphasized the need to be proactive. For example, through the use of service charters that a number of public institutions like the judiciary now have. TIZ has been very instrumental in working with different actors to create service charters. The Minister also emphasized information flow to the general public on the ills of corruption. Everyone present during the conference shared the view and belief that corruption is a responsibility for all concerned citizens and cannot be left to one institution alone. As the popular saying goes, corruption starts with me and ends with me. This means everyone must be actively involved in fighting it both at individual and institutional level. It is not a fight for TIZ or the ACC alone. Everyone must be involved if we have to get the fruits in the manner that we envisage and then saving others from complete ruin. To that end, We made and adopted 9 conference declarations for the year 2020. I'll highlight only 2 of those. Firstly, to strengthen institutional coordination and multi-sector or stakeholder collaboration in the fight against corruption. And secondly, to heighten our efforts in sensitizing citizens about progressive interventions being made in the fight against corruption. Ladies and gentlemen, our Corruption Perception Index, CPI, paints a gloomy picture about our performance as a country, and definitely something must be done to change the perception, and quite urgently so. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to appreciate that corruption can mean dishonest behavior by those in positions of power, such as managers of different institutions or government officials. It can include acts such as giving or accepting bribes or inappropriate gifts, double dealing, under-the-table transactions, manipulating elections, diverting public funds from intended purposes, money laundering, awarding contracts to dubious or even non-existent companies, awarding contracts on condition that the awardee pays something, procuring goods and services at inflated prices, falsifying documents, and the list is endless. Ladies and gentlemen, the list of corrupt activities is endless. It is important to remember that no one wins with corruption. Whatever person does corruptly will affect them in future, either directly or indirectly. And bad deeds will eventually catch up with the perpetrators. Unfortunately, the experience has shown that bad effects of corruption affect the poor and innocent citizens adversely. Have we not heard of buildings that have collapsed, killing hundreds of people because of poor workmanship? Time and again in this country, we see some roads just a few months after being worked on. They develop potholes and are a nightmare to use. We have also heard of serious accidents from buildings that have been certified fit for occupation, and we keep wondering what certification dealt with. Ladies and gentlemen, the effects of corruption are huge and devastating to everyone. The foreword to the United Nations Convention Against Corruption 2003 states in part that corruption, and I quote, corruption undermines democracy and the rule of law, leads to violations of human rights, distorts markets, erodes the quality of life, and allows organized crime, terrorism, and other threats to human security to flourish. This statement should alarm anyone concerned about their well-being and that of their families and the nation at large. Further, Article 3, Clause 1 of the African Convention on Preventing and Combating Corruption, also of 2003, enjoins state parties to, among other things, condemn and reject acts of corruption, related offences, and impunity. Zambia is party to these conventions and, as such, bound by its provisions. Allow me quickly to list a few effects of corruption. Number 1, corruption undermines the sustainable development of a nation. Development requires honest, transparent, and accountable systems. And yet, year in, year out, we see in the Auditor General's report huge financial improprieties existing in some institutions. Number 2, corruption brings about economic loss and inefficiency, which eventually affects everyone in the country. Examples are many. Number 3, corruption exacerbates poverty and inequality. Number 5, corruption leads to impunity and partial justice. At the end of the day, it is clear that corruption erodes public confidence and leads to lawlessness. Put simply, corruption lowers the quality of life for all. When institutions are corrupt, they provide poor services, and these can range from public service into private service because corruption affects everyone. However, be as it may that the picture is so gloomy, we have the power to change this by investing energies in fighting the vice. It is through this desire to have a corrupt-free society that we shall all bring our efforts together to fight the vice. A corrupt-free system rewards hard work. It affords equal opportunity to all who deserve it, and resources are fairly distributed. Goods and services are procured in open market without underhand methods. justice is served and not denied to those who seek it. Goods and services are procured in open market without underhand methods. Justice is served and not denied to those who seek it. Fighting corruption, therefore, ladies and gentlemen, is a multifaceted and complicated process requiring synergy among all sectors. All those who have been denied opportunities because of corrupt activities, all those who receive poor services because of corruption are invited to join the fight against corruption. The nation is therefore invited to join the fight against corruption. Being corrupt-free is a national movement, a movement of searching for higher standards of behavior among all stakeholders. This movement needs leadership, which lies in the welfare and commitment of the community, as they are the most affected by the effects of corruption. Leadership lies in young people who are being robbed of opportunities because of corruption. Leadership must also come from the church. Ladies and gentlemen, we are invited to act against corruption. If you do not care enough about yourself, at least care about your children and your children's children. Ending corruption must start from home at individual level. It is corruption for a parent to say to a child, I'll give you a coin if you go to school or if you wash plates. Such a child will grow up knowing there must be an incentive for him or her to do anything. Such is the beginning of corruption, which continues to grow until it reaches alarming levels. We can change and help others change their attitudes about corruption and instill a culture of accountability and integrity. It is possible for us to win this fight if we all join in the fight, in fighting it. Ladies and gentlemen, can we imagine a corrupt-free country? Or better still, can we achieve a corrupt-free country? The decision lies with us, individually and collectively. A complete change of attitude will heal our nation. Yes, we can. Thank you for your attention. Signed, Chapter President Kanamsa. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vic. And of course, to you colleagues from the media, the message is narrowed down to just simple way. No one wins with corruption. You cannot win with corruption. And most of the time, people think that karma happens to the person that has committed the crime. But Vic was just talking about children's children. The effects of corruption cannot just be felt by us, but by our children's children. Look at the debt that is accrued by the country today. Our children's children are affected. So each and every person has the responsibility to rid this country of corruption. How can we recover with integrity? We must take part. Yesterday we were given various sites on how the media could be corrupt. They were saying that if you falsify a story, then that particular media house is corrupt. If you write a headline that did not exist, that is corruption, because corruption is the abuse of entrusted power for whatsoever else for private gain. So it's now that particular point where I allow you to ask various questions to Vic, as well as the executive director and the programs manager, to respond to some of the issues that you may have forgotten to talk about yesterday, or burning issues that have come from the speech that you think needs to be addressed as a media. Questions from anyone are invited, also contributions, because this is our day. It's not only the Transparency International Zambia and the Anti-Corruption Commission. Questions? Or was the speech so straightforward that it has touched everybody's life? Or we'll have to go back to the studio and say, no, Mr. Churu, I'm asking for Mr. Nyambe's number, but he was just right there. Questions? Comments?
Maybe the SCC has something.
Good morning. My name is Mbigo Manza. I'm coming from your radio. I would like to talk about just corruption. I know we keep talking about corruption, and it's more like everyone knows what corruption is, but we don't really know what corrupt activities are. Do you think, as a country, we are emphasizing so much on what characterizes a corrupt activity, or we're just thinking it's just money in exchange? I don't know if my question is clear. do you think as a country we are putting that information to say it's not just about money, which is corruption, or in exchange of anything can be corruption?
Question is very straightforward. Do we only talk about money as corruption? In most cases, people think bribery is just the corruption, but there could be other vices that are linked to corruption.
Yesterday, there was a question or a concern that was raised. Say, today we have politicians that will stand on the podium and tell the crowd to say, if those guys are coming to corrupt you, accept the bribe, but don't vote for them, come and vote for us. Even as TIZ, SEC, and other bodies stand to fight corruption, are we seeing any politicians, are we seeing political will, not only from the government, but also from the opposition political parties in the fight against this vice? Because you find that they are standing and encouraging it to say, go on and do it.
Interesting question. Mr. Nyambe, we may start with the politician.
Okay, thank you. Let me start indeed with the second one by Edwin. I didn't get what institution you're from.
Msanda TV.
Sorry?
Msanda TV.
Msanda TV. Okay, thank you. I think what you raised is something that is important and something very cardinal. And I think part of what we were talking about in our event yesterday, I touched a lot on that. There is no doubt that the aspect of politicians saying accept the bribe but don't vote for them, we don't think that is something that really should fly, and we absolutely do not subscribe to that notion, because effectively what you are doing is that you are normalizing corruption. And I think we heard even yesterday that part of the reason why politicians behave that way is because of maybe the electorate, and so because we've made it normal for us to expect certain inducement from politicians when they come. Okay, I think the adage of the penguin was used yesterday, where some people say, "No, this politician, it doesn't give," or something like that. So I think it's a mindset shift that needs to happen. And the political field, generally speaking, is one area where you see a lot of cases of corruption. And maybe that speaks also to what Ms. Manza mentioned about whether corruption only talks about money. It is not just about money. It is about, the correct things being done also within the political process. So talking about political bribery, for example, talking about nepotism and all these are different elements that take place. And so the onus really, I think, is on all of us who are anti-corruption activists, but even us as citizens, the electorate, to begin to make it very clear, even to the politicians, when they do come to us, that we should not give our votes to any person that attempts or even goes ahead to induce us in any way. Because if that person is offering a bribe or some sort of inducement, then it means they are really not worthy of your vote. So I think the work still has to go on in terms of the awareness that we raise, but also the joint efforts that we are engaged in with other actors, such as the Anti-Corruption Commission, for example. So I think we still need to do a lot of work in terms of making it clear that corruption really has got many facets, and even the aspect of, essentially you're talking about the don't go ever syndrome. And I think that's something that will not help us in our efforts to address corruption.
Thank you very much, Shiri. I think he's pretty much covered the ground, but I'll add just a few comments. With regard to what corruption is and whether it is restricted to money, the answer is no. Corruption takes many forms. I highlighted a few. Accepting bribes, it can be money, it can be anything. Awarding contracts in a dubious manner. We've had instances of falsifying documents. So it really is something that a person will do for personal gain and cause injury to the others. That is what a corrupt activity is. It's an unclean act. And therefore, restricting it to money alone will give it a narrow perspective. Corruption runs through. The example I was giving of a child. You tell a child, I'll do this for you if you do this. Essentially, we are creating a corrupt environment where this child must know that something must be given to me, otherwise it doesn't work. And that is where the problem is. One of the things we are emphasizing on, the CIZ and together with our stakeholders, is that we should start teaching about corruption, talking against corruption from the home. If we leave it to when people are adults, we have a problem. Because as it is, corruption is endemic. People know, moving on to the issue of political, maybe campaign, people already know that when they go for a campaign, they'll get beer, they'll get technical material, they'll get all sorts of benefits. They will go for that specific purpose. To encourage someone to say, get it and then come and vote for us, I think is also another corrupt activity. We should at all times discourage corruption, because this corruption is not ending with one person, it's going on to kill other people as well. It might not be physical death, but death in different areas, different aspects of life. For example, if you go to the hospital and a person tells you your next appointment with the doctor, to see a doctor, is maybe 6 months from now. I've seen it happen personally. The person is coming from Bala. I'm sure most of us know where Bala is. It's the northern province. And they're given their referral case. And they're given an appointment for 6 months from today. You ask yourself a question. It's pending today. I am in pain today, not tomorrow. So I should come and see the doctor in 6 months. Then another one says that if you give me something, I can post it out for you. That is corruption. You know? So that something can be anything, materials, can be money, it can be all sorts of things. The biggest challenge we've been having is we, the citizen, encouraging that corruption. Giving an example of street vending. Street vending would have finished a long time ago if we were not buying from them. We are the ones who encourage it because we buy from them. So corruption again thrives because it's a two-way thing. The one who is corrupting and the corrupted. So both are encouraging the tide. And this is why we as an organization, on this important day, we are calling for a change of mindset, a change of attitude. If we say no, and sincerely say no, we will achieve. But if we say no, behind closed doors we do something else, then we are not winning. We are going to be wallowing in the same problem day in, day out. Thank you.
Yeah, I think a lot has been said. In addition, I think that one of the things that came out of yesterday's conference is the need to clearly define corruption. I think this touches the question Lumbi asked. The Anti-Corruption Act defines corrupt acts. It doesn't define corruption. That is the starting point of where the problem is. I think we need to collectively look at this and jointly inform legal reform around anti-corruption laws. Secondly, when you look at TRE definition of corruption, is broad because this thing keeps on evolving. We say for us, corruption is what? Misuse of intrastate power. It leaves room for the emerging aspects of corruption to be included in the definition of corruption. For example, today, I think there's one aspect that is not usually talked about, but it's a reality. Especially, for example, ladies, you want a job, there is what is called sextortion. You are asked to give in or aim in exchange for a job. That is abuse of one's entrusted power for personal gain. I think that we need to work together with the institutions that are mandated to fight corruption, like the Anti-Corruption Commission. But the starting point is to have a legal framework that is solid to help us to deal with this issue. The question from Edwin, again yesterday, I think the problem that is happening in the political arena is that most of the time we do not, I stand to be corrected, we do not make decisions out of our own conviction that this is the correct candidate. We make decisions as a result of what we receive from the candidate. I don't know whether that is the right decision. We are moved by tokenism or consequentialism. You understand what I'm talking about? But let's look at the bigger picture. If we allow corrupt individuals to manage the political affairs of this country, you are allowing political capture. The moment a political party is captured, you are paving way for state capture. You are allowing people that are corrupt to superintend over legal reform, superintend over policy formulation. In short, they are stealing everything to their advantage. And you, as an ordinary citizen, you remain disadvantaged. There was an example that was given yesterday. The Constitution defines a public officer differently, and the Anti-Corruption Act defines it differently. You are not blaming anyone here, but the bigger scheme here is maybe, I'm saying maybe, is a deliberate move to actually protect those that are doing wrong things when they are in power, so that when they leave power, there is a way of running away from taking responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I know my colleague from the commission wanted to say something, but then the question he had in mind is going to the three of you. We have talked about these vices, we've talked about the effects, we've talked about how it affects the future generations to come. But the question comes, the theme is very categorical. We need to recover with integrity. So now, what are some of the things that we can utilize to recover with integrity? We are 34, we are not doing fine. The 7th National Development Plan entails that we need to be at least at 50% plus for us to see that we achieve the middle income country status. But then, if corruption is worsening, and we're saying we need to recover with integrity, what are those things that we need to utilize for us to recover with integrity? And also PM, we've talked about political parties. I know there's a project that Transparency International Zambia is engaging in. How can we engage these politicians to ensure that there's a level playing field, and of course we get to know maybe where the money comes from, so that maybe we can block the aspect of political financing that is meant for state corruption.
Thank you very much, Charles. I think the starting point is to send information out there. A lot of people hear about corruption and nothing more. We need to send well-packaged information, well that depend on the media, to send out information to communities. We need to work with the communities. People should know. Once they have known that this is a vice, then coupled with a change that this is a vice, then coupled with a change of attitude, then we can achieve. So through sensitization of communities, through different forums of trying to engage with those that we think may be compromised, we want to adopt a system where we're not fighting. We want to adopt a system where we get to the root of the problem. If you go in with a fighting attitude, most of the time people don't want to listen to you. They also develop a shield or a defense mechanism. But when you go in, you'll be able to find that information. And therefore, in pursuing integrity, we want to, in pursuing the end of corruption, we want to pursue integrity. What systems do we have in place of that promote integrity? Because a person who towards integrity will definitely not be in the line of doing adverse activities, and of course things that they know are going to affect the country as a whole.
Yeah, in addition to what Viv has said, yesterday I think the minister mentioned something which I think everyone agreed, that maybe we are like older people, we are a lost generation, and the focus should be on the youth. But I think that issues of corruption should not be left to civic education I think it's a bigger issue. We need to start advocating for competent institutions being given the ability to inform personal development processes in the country. So if we are talking about curriculum, we need to be very clear. I don't think Ministry of General Education is competent to completely deal with this issue. So there should be a strong engagement and collaboration between people that are trained to deal with this and people that are trained to impart knowledge to the youth. For me, that would be my submission. Regarding political parties financing, this is a problem. And everyone was scared, maybe let me use that term, to agree that Zambia is a captured state. Very uncomfortable, but we'll leave it to you. Individually, you make an assessment whether we are captured or not. But then, this is an issue that we need to deal with. As Transparency International Zambia, what we've started doing is to engage political parties. And the first engagement we had early this year, all political parties agreed that this is a problem, but all political parties also agreed not to give us information about where they get their money from. The only information they told us is that money comes from contributions from members. Now, how much does a national rally cost? Are you sure contributions from individuals can finance that? But I think the idea that we are pushing for is for regulation around political financing, because this is a conduit to political party capture, a conduit to state capture. And we need to guard against that. Thank you.
As you respond to some of the questions that were raised, there's another question that the colleague of mine asked as I was moving there. The question was very simple. Is the fight against corruption real, or it's just like an assignment cover page, where the cover page is very beautiful, but the content of the assignment is something else?
Thank you, John. The second question, maybe we should give it to the lecturer, but then I'll get to that. I just wanted to touch on the issue of the theme for the UN Anti-Corruption Day, which is, of course, recover with integrity. I think for us, this also has to do, of course, with how we recover as a country from the COVID pandemic. I think COVID is still an issue that is still persisting, and it is an issue that still affects us. Unfortunately, the COVID pandemic has seemingly created opportunities for corruption to occur. This can be evidenced from the findings of the Auditor General report on the COVID donations. I think there was something to the effect of 6 million or something like that that was lost through corruption. And so you're talking about a situation really that affects people's health, and people still going ahead to misuse or steal resources that relate to that. So I think the aspect of recovering with integrity has to do, first of all, with strengthening, for example, monitoring systems that have to do with the way we are managing this COVID. It has to do with strengthening the accountability mechanisms in the way that we are handling even the COVID response. We did a study, a short project that we did on the COVID donations, which really showed the problems and the gaps that existed within our COVID response, and how those gaps created the potential for corruption to actually occur within the way that we're managing the response. And when the report came up, when our report came up, of course it was disputed, I think, by the MMU. But then a month later, the Auditor General's report highlighted exactly the sort of findings that we had seen. So I think it's important that we begin to start the recovery even from that stage. And so that is why maybe we even want to reiterate our call that all those that were mentioned in the Auditor General report as having abused COVID funds, I mean, we have to demand accountability from them, and they have to be brought to book. So law enforcement agencies and everybody really has to go in and see to it that we hold these people to account, because we really cannot afford as a country to continue losing money to corruption, to continue losing the country's resources to corruption, in a climate where we are still trying to to get a bailout package from the IMF in a climate where the bondholders have rejected our request to delay our payment. And then that is the climate that you are then again engaging in corruption. So I think we need to take stock as a country and begin to think of real and creative ways in which we can actually enforce and enhance our transparency and our integrity and our accountability, even in the way that we handle the COVID response. Is the fight against corruption real? I think it is real. It's something really that affects all of us, like has been stated even in our statement. But I think the important thing to note and to do is that we need to find creative ways of being able to carry the masses along. And I think that is one of the key messages that came even from our event yesterday. Because the danger, or what we do not want, is we do not want this to become an elitist kind of intervention, which is just a conversation that happens just at the national level without that linkage to what is happening at local level. In our own way, as Tiz said, we try to sort of strengthen that link through our people engagement program, through which we are able to interact and engage with people at the local level. So the idea is that you are trying to link the two levels together so that you're not just having a conversation at this higher level, but that you're also carrying the masses along. Because like we always say, this fight against corruption, it is not a TIZ fight alone. So it's not about TIZ, it's not about Ruben Mifuka, it's not about Laura Miti or whoever. It's about every one of us really putting our concerted efforts together. I always say that we need to get to a point where we develop some kind of grand coalition against corruption. And I think that is one way in which we are going to see to it that we begin to make real progress in the fight. So no, Charles, the fight is not a fallacy, and it's not something that is just abstract, but it's something actually that we all need to contribute to in order for us to become more effective with our interventions. Thank you.
I want to also add, I think that it seems we are being put like in front and being asked questions. This issue is for everyone. and I think that as journalists, let me challenge you as well. You know that there are a lot of interventions that anti-corruption, for example, is doing in terms of corruption prevention. One of the interventions is promoting development and publication of service charters, promoting open business through customer service centers. In the olden days, you queue up and then you enter an office, you transact with the official, you leave. But the moment you enter the office, you close the door. You don't know what they are discussing there. Maybe they are agreeing to exchange bribes. But with the open business environment, you are seeing what is happening. How many of you take interest to popularize what is happening? We want to cry foul when there is a corrupt act that comes to, in the open. But let's take interest and celebrate the good things that are the efforts that are going into fighting corruption. But also let's take it as our responsibility that we contribute to the fight against corruption and prevention of corruption.
Just to add to it, the fight against corruption is real and will remain so for a long time. This is because corruption is not a static phenomenon, it's an evolving phenomenon. It has changed over time. I recall when I was young, now I'm old. When I was young, there were issues like work on work, meaning wherever I am, I will favor only my relatives or my friends. That is corruption. Things changed. There was another term that was being used, Nchekeleko. Whatever it is that you are doing, if I have to do it for you, you will pay me. Time and from time to time, there are different terms, connotations that are used to describe the same thing. So it is an evolving process. And therefore, even we as fighters, all of us in here, no one excluded, we as fighters against this vice, we must also develop new strategies. Some of the things that TIZ is doing is going to the communities with sensitization of communities, creating tags. What are tags? Transparency action groups, because we want to ensure that each and every corner is touched. We as organizations, civil society organizations, have been accused for a very long time of having these air-conditioned conference room meetings, which end the moment we step out. There's nothing, there's no action that is being done. You have this high-level meeting at Intercontinental Hotel, and you invite people, they come, you deliberate. The moment you're out of there, it's done and dusted, the file is closed. We are not adopting that kind of attitude as CIZ. We are going out into the communities. Yesterday, we adopted some declarations from our conference, and we are running with those. We'll hit the road running, because we want to ensure that what we are doing is not just rhetoric. We talk and talk and talk and no action. We actually want to see action. And therefore, this is why we've also involved the various institutions. For example, with the creation of the service charters, we launched the service charters for the judiciary last year. Those have escalated now to all the superior courts, constitutional courts, Supreme Court, High Court, going down to the magistrate courts, the small claims court, and everyone has service charters, because we want to stop the vices that have been going on. Files missing from nowhere. Yesterday we had a presentation, very good presentation from the judiciary of the efforts that have embarked on to ensure that justice is not denied. Justice is given to those that seek it. We've had instances where a file will go missing, or you just find the file itself, but there's no information in the file. And those are things that are arising from corrupt activities that are happening between the court staff and the outsiders. And this has been going on. So the judiciary, working in conjunction with us, is also doing some activities. The police too, we have been working closely with them. And within their corners, within their specialization, they're also going out into the communities and trying to disseminate this information. So in that way, we are seeing the fight against corruption being real, because at the end of the day, we are also emphasizing on integrity, and we want everyone involved to be persons of integrity, and therefore we can, at the end of the day. If we just leave it to TIZ, we'll have a problem. If we also leave it to just a meeting like this, the moment we step out, it is done and dusted, then we'll have a problem. As media, we expect you to carry these stories well packaged to inform the nation. So many people read your stories, so many people see your television programs. And if you don't package information properly, then you are not contributing, because as far as we are concerned, as TIZ, you are a major stakeholder in the fight against corruption. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those encouraging but also promising words. One of the ways that you know that we're celebrating this day is the gallery that you will see just as you move out of these premises, and we encourage each and every one of us to visit the desk so that we get to find out a little bit more of what is really happening. And we appreciate the work that the Commission is doing, that is the Anti-Corruption Commission, but also Transparency International Zambia. We have a lot of programs, starting from people's engagement and advocacy program to a democracy governance program. Then we go into environment and natural resource governance, the strategy and monitoring program, to management and institution program. So we encourage you, the media, to find out what each and every program does. But also we have projects like accountable mining. How do we ensure that the mining value chain is appreciated by our local people? How can we simplify the environmental impact assessment so that it speaks to the nitty-gritties of what the communities where mining activities are taking place are addressed? But also we have the OC4H, which is the Open Contracting for Health program. Let us find out on how we want to alleviate the corruption vulnerability areas so that the procurement processes are beneficial to the people of Zambia. So those desks there will give you the opportunity. But more so, how do we get to utilize the 5980 from the Anti-Corruption Commission, how the Anti-Corruption Commission, how the preventive measures are put in place by the SCC, and also how does their education program work to address the challenges of corruption. So we encourage you, that you take time to visit these desks and get the information to the depths of the stories that you want to achieve. And one of the recommendations that came out from the conference yesterday, and which I want one of the media persons to agree, is that we've agreed that there will be no brown envelope starting from the 1st of January 2021. Do we agree? Thank you so much. Let me call upon the programs manager to give us his concluding remarks, and then I'll call upon Mr. Walia to give us a closing prayer.
Thanks, Charles. I think a lot has been said. The challenge is to each one of us, and we hope through the media we are throwing this challenge to everyone that to either hear or watch this press conference, that the fight against corruption is for everyone. We need to put our hands together. We need to change our mindset and ensure that we contribute in our own small way in the fight against corruption. Lastly, I would like to thank everyone that has found time to be part of this event, and also to encourage you to continue partnering with us and other stakeholders involved in the fight against corruption. From here, we move to the tent to just appreciate the work that we are doing around that corruption. We continue the conversation on a one-to-one basis. Thank you very much, and back to you, Charles.
Thank you so much. Pastor Patrick, let us pray. God our Father, we come before you to give you thanks and praise for who you are, for the love that you have for our country, Zambia. We also thank you for the wisdom that you continually give us in order to support the development needs of our country, especially the fight against corruption, ensuring justice, and ensuring the equitable distribution of resources. We pray, dear Lord, that you give us the courage that we need to confront head-on the scourge of corruption, to sensitize the young people and the citizens around us, so that together we work against corruption, so that we can see the development that we need. Bless us and bless this day and everything we are going to do. We make our prayer through Christ our Lord. Amen. Amen. Thank you so much, Pastor Walia. We would like to thank everybody for coming. Please let us enjoy ourselves. After the tent, we have a table that has been lined up for snacks as we continue commemorating this important day where we want to recover with integrity. Thank you so much. Thank you.
So there you go. Thank you so much for joining us. You right here for this international summit where we had enjoyed Press Briefing by the Mr. Bonds. And the Vice President of the challenge explained a number of issues regarding what recommendation one made yesterday at the Center. And I should conclude by saying that it takes everybody to fight against corruption, and the challenge has been thrown to the media as well to make sure that they do not receive any wrong investors come one. So the fight against corruption, just like the minister said yesterday, was considered everybody from stakeholders. And this man here talked about the issue that has to do with fighting corruption, starting from home. Referring to each child, that if you do a particular chore, you'll be given a call, that's corruption. So she did make mention that corruption needs, the fight against corruption needs to start from the homes. It needs to be reinforced in the workplaces and in government offices or in decision-making positions. So this was the press briefing at Transparency International Zambia. TIZ will be going in the gallery just go and see what's happening there. Join us and stay tuned. So before that, It's likely to run
Fear. Fear to be arrested. We are good in talking, but
Ninsambusha mwina Zambia wansi ofikirepo okulembesha bukasala okulembesha okuletwa n'abakabungwa ka Electoral Commission of Zambia mukusala kwa chinkumbawiro kwa mwaka wa 2021
okutendeka pa 9 November okufika pa 12 December 2020
abena Zambia bonse abakweta akatupa ka mutwe n'emyaka 18 n'okuchirapo era n'abali kumanya emyaka 18 ilo chirefika nangu pa 9 May 2021 n'abafikapo okulembesha bukasala wa mwaka wa 2021 ngata mulembesha bukasala nishita mwakasaleko mukusala kwa chinkumbawiro kwa mwaka wa 2021 lembesha ni bukasala n'okupoka akatupa kakusalira kwa kapya pantu tutupa twakale twakusalira pota twakabombe mukusala kwa mwaka wa 2021 ukwa chinkumbawire lembesha n'okusala ninsambushenu imbira abamiletereko bakabungwe kamuna pakusala aka Electoral Commission of Zambia ECZ
right here in the gallery, and we'll be finding out what exactly is happening here. We'll be talking to a few people just to find out exactly what is contained in the brochure. So follow me and let's get it out. So we are here at Transparency International, and we'll be talking to this young lady here, and she'll be writing what exactly is happening. Hello, good morning. I'm alright. So we're trying to find out what exactly is happening.
So here are some of the laws that we use. Of course, the principal law being the Anti-Corruption Act, number 3 of 2012. And then we have many others. We have the Whistleblowers Act, we have the Fear of Negotiations Act, we have the Perpetual President. And all these laws are used in the Many people ask, what do you do?
Yes, what really does the LCC do?
One of the interventions that are there, we are trying to reach out to the public because we know that they are future leaders in this nation. So we have some of these things that are unique, like rulers, which has the message here. Corruption-free Zambia begins with me. This is the national slogan, which we wish that everybody would embrace, because indeed, if we don't take it up as individuals in the fight against corruption, we will not be able to do it.
So are you partnering with schools?
Yes. I'll show you the other books that are there that have been, that we are working with as an anti-corruption commission. So these ones are rulers. We give them out to young people. The message is there. We explain to them what this means. The fight against corruption begins with me. If as an individual you don't take it up, then we won't be able to do it. Then we have these materials. This one is in Chitonga. This is a brochure, general leaflet about corruption. It's in Tonga because we know that we need to reach out to people who don't understand English. So we reach out to them using different languages. We know that there are so many languages in Zambia.
Of course.
These materials in different languages, so we're able to reach out to this. These ones are in Chitonga, same message in Bemba, same message in Nyanja. This one is a little bit different. It's for the youth. The message of corruption has been simplified so that the youth are able to do it or to understand it.
Okay. I'm seeing the annual report 2016. What is contained in that report?
These reports you are seeing, they contain basically the same information about what we do throughout a particular year. They are normally produced 2 years after another. So the latest one is this one.
The 2017 one.
2017, yes. We should have had another 2019. Yeah, but the last one we had was this one. These ones are normally produced in conjunction with TIZ 2 years after. And then this is just also a book which contains general information about what corruption is and what the Anti-Corruption Commission does.
Okay.
These are books produced by TIZ as well as Anti-Corruption Commission. And this one's another example of a book to the young people. We have young people who have written something about corruption. And they have this together using that information is there. So all these stories, all these poems have been written by different young people from different schools. But they're able to reach out to their friends at their level.
Okay.
So this one is the same as this one, which are in local languages, except it's in English.
Oh, okay.
So we have materials that will reach out to everyone at different languages, different levels, so that we don't leave out anyone.
Okay.
And these ones here, like I was saying, we have gone down to the education sector.
Okay.
We have books written for the young people as young as grade 1.
So they will be able to learn about corruption.
Yes, because everything that is written here is done up there.
Oh, they're actually learning.
They are learning at the moment. So this is from grade 1 to 12.
Oh,
These
wow.
are supplementary books. So all schools actually have been reached, and they have these books at different levels, and children are learning at their levels. This is for grade 1 to 2. As you can see, these are pictorial books, which makes it very easy for the children to learn. So they begin to understand what corruption is and its negative effects on the society. So they learn.
Okay.
This one, the same information we have here, general information about corruption, the bad effects on society and all that, but this is in Braille. We want to reach out to the blind people as well.
Oh,
This one is Braille. This is a material written for the blind people, so they're also able to read and get information about corruption.
Do you really have programs in local languages in all the major 7 languages in Zambia? Because I've only seen these.
Okay. So we're just talking to an official from the Anti-Corruption Commission, and we're being told that the message is being spread. It's going down to even grade 1s are learning about corruption. We had the Vice President during the press briefing talking about the fight against corruption, starting from homes, and we are seeing that the Anti-Corruption Commission has gone all the way to grade 1s, and they have booklets to grade 12. So this is one of the booklets for grade 1s, as you can see. We have images there, cartoons, if you may like, depicted in the book. So the fight against corruption has been taken to the young ones as well. They are learning about corruption. What is corruption? So if you attempt to bribe your child, if you attempt to corrupt your child will be able to tell you that you are practicing corruption, because they are able to learn this at various schools. And these booklets are actually going all the way to grade 12. So each and every pupil is able to learn about corruption and make decisive decisions and become productive leaders. And like the minister said yesterday, it takes concerted efforts from all stakeholders, from the household to the decision makers. So the fight against corruption is being heightened, like we heard from the Anti-Corruption Commission official there. And we have been told that they have booklets, they have leaflets, they have pamphlets that are in different local languages. So if you speak Silozi, Chitonga, Ichivemba, Chinyanja, those books are there for you to make decisive decisions and for you not to engage in corruption. Besides that, also the differently abled, visually impaired persons are not left out. They will be able to be catered for as well. So no person is being left out in the fight against corruption. I'll ask you to follow me so that we'll be able to talk to officials from TIZ and find out exactly what they have to display in this very gallery. Ready? So you can come with me here. Good morning. I'm alright. I'm from KBN. We are live right now on our page, KBN TV. So we are here in the gallery, and this is the Anti-Corruption Commission stand. TIZ. Sorry, we are from the Anti-Corruption Commission stand, and we are now talking to this lady, lovely lady right here from TIZ, and she will be telling us and showing us around what they have to display here. So what's your name?
So my name is Bernadette Samdela. I'm the legal officer at TIZ. So today being the International Anti-Corruption Day, we initially had a press conference, which we are glad that you participated in, as well as having an information sharing desk. So together with SEC, where we are distributing some information that we have developed, as well as just sharing with the various people that come through here and try to tell them what we do here at TIZ. So these publications that you've seen here are from various programs as well as projects that we currently have.
Maybe let's talk about this one. 2019 Zambia Bribe Payers Index Survey report. What is this report all about? What is contained in this particular report?
Okay, so this particular report, basically it is a study that is undertaken by one of the joint tasks that we undertake with Anti-Corruption Commission. So it is a study where the community is engaged, Zambian citizens are engaged on what transpires when they go and seek the public services. Are they being asked for bribes in order to get your service early? Or maybe they are the ones who maybe offer that bribe to the person who is offering the service. So together we come up with, after that study is conducted, we then come up with the institutions, what institutions are ranking high in demanding for these bribes as they are giving their service. So we come up with this. The intention is not to shame those institutions. The intention is to later work with them and better their public service delivery. So I'll give an example of Zambia Police. At one point, it was ranked as being high in seeking bribes, traffic department. But having worked with them, we have come up with a number of service charters. We have signed, we have formalized our relationship with them through an MOU, and we have a number of, there is an ethics code that has been developed so that when those things are distributed to the people, they know that, okay, even when I am seeking for, there's one here, when I'm seeking for a police bond, these are the steps that I have to take. Do I have to pay, or am I not required to pay? So these are just some of the interventions that we have done with the police. But that also goes to other institutions who see in what way can we better our working environment.
Okay. So this is the code of ethics. For
yes, so I
police.
talked about the code of ethics and the police bond. We have service charters, and we also decided let us formalize this relationship with them, and we also present that.
I'm seeing something, an image here from mine. Yes, it's saying enhance transparency and accountability in the awarding of mining sector permits, licenses, and contracts. So we'd like to find out, are you also involved in curbing corruption in the mining sector? What is this booklet all about?
Yes, we do have, like I mentioned, we do have a number of programs as well as projects. So one of the projects that we have is the accountable mining project. But I would not want to exhaust what is in this booklet because the officer behind this booklet is available and you can engage her.
Okay.
Yes. Well, I can't even Tina, but you can look out for Mr. Mika.
Oh, Mr.
Yes,
Mika.
yes.
Also, we'll be looking out for Mr. Mika so that he can explain the contents of this particular booklet. Okay, so moving on, we are seeing that the Chambeshi Water Supply and Sanitation Company simplified acquisition process and procedures. Maybe you can run us through these pamphlets or booklets that you have.
Okay, so this is as a result of the people's engagement and advocacy program, where if you've been following us very well, our fight against corruption is basically twofold, where we want to engage the community, the people at a lower level, to foster behavioral and attitudinal change towards corruption. Because many time when someone would think participating in corruption is a norm, so we want to change that mindset. And in doing that, we are working with the community as people's engagement and advocacy program. But we are also working at a higher level, at a national level, through the democratic governance program, fostering institutional, legal reforms, legal reforms. So, based on this, we go into you identify a community, you engage the people. What is it that is affecting them? Yes. So, for example, this is Chambeshi. They had water issues. Yes, water issues. So what you do together, you engage the public service delivery who in that community is offering that service. So you engage them together with the people. You present what your issues are, and then you try. At the end of the day, you sign integrity pacts, which are more like an informal agreement to see how that public service delivery institution, that institution is going to respond to those challenges that the community is having.
Awesome. Now, finally, I can see here we have gone digital. You have gone digital. So just tell us about that.
So these are the results of land corruption in Africa. Yes. So we are doing this project in Luapula province and in Chisumkas area. Yes. So it is more of just sensitizing the people on how you can acquire land as a citizen. So we go through what processes do you use to acquire traditional land, and are you using it for the purposes of farming, or you want to just live there, or how does an investor come to acquire land in that area? So we just sensitize to the people on those processes so that they know at what stage do you pay, at what stage are you not required to pay. Yes, but we also engage the traditional leaders, yes, so that even as we are sensitizing to the people, they are also part of the process and they get a buy-in into what it is.
Awesome. You see, there's a calendar here.
Oh yes.
Okay.
So
So am I going to go with one?
Oh yeah, sure. These things are for you.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you can see on our calendar, there are a number of number of things that are shown there. Those are not. So these are not for decorations. You've seen here. We took part in
They actually carry messages.
They carry messages. Yes.
So what exactly was happening?
So in the first picture, we took part we partnered with Misa Zambia.
Oh, okay.
Yes, we also identify media houses that are promoting our messages.
Such as KBN.
Yeah, such as KBN, yes. We are going to be considered next year. So we awarded one journalist newspaper, right? Yes. Here we were.
Yeah, I'm able to see you though. Yes.
So we were in Chief Chisumka's So we were conducting this project. These two go together.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah. So sensitizing the people, a number of villages, more than I think more than 10 to 15. 10 to 15. We reached out to more than 10 to 15 villages. Yeah,
I can see the chapter president here.
we have the chapter president, we have police inspector general, some board member there, that's a former board member, and a number of personnel from Zambia Police. So this was the signing of the police code of ethics.
Oh,
yes.
The one you just controlled.
Yes. Yeah, anti-corruption through sports. So we just had that moment with ACC. We had a game of soccer and we plan to have them contact.
We made the winner, though.
Oh, we were the winners.
Oh, yeah, congratulations. Congratulations. Okay, so there you have it, viewers. We were speaking to Madam Bernadette here at the Transparency International Zambia stand, where she was explaining to us about the different programs and a calendar here and the activities that are carried out by the Anti-Corruption Commission. And the most comforting thing is that of the Transparency International Zambia partnering media houses that promote or enhance the message of corruption. And we can see that one of the journalists was awarded. So we look forward to scooping that word as KBN next year. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much. And account the mining officer has come. So even as you, she's there. So even as you provide this information to the public, I think you should also go with this information that you can report corruption to TIZ. You can either come physically to plot number 128 Mangula Road. You can also email to reportcorruption.tiz@gmail.com. We'll receive your complaint, we'll assess it based on its merit, we'll then work on it together with our partners. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much for your time. So we are moving on. So we are still here in the gallery where different brochures are displayed, and we're still finding out the message is being depicted in these different brochures. So this is the lady that we've been looking for, and finally we have found her. We wanted to find out, first of all, you can introduce yourself for our viewers out there.
My name is Tamika Haluti. I work for Transparency International Zambia on a project called Accountable Mike.
Okay, awesome. She is the one we've been looking for. So here's the thing. We wanted to find out what exactly is contained in this booklet. So you can help us understand what exactly is contained in this booklet.
Sure. So as Transparency International Zambia, we are working on a project called Accountable Mining. Now, as opposed to everyone else who says maybe focuses on revenue and tax, ours is the focus on the beginning of the mining value chain, which is when licenses and permits are given. So we are saying once we get it wrong at that initial stage, then we get it wrong everywhere else. So if you get a company, you give a mining license to a company that, for instance, takes the mining license dodgily, we are saying that will affect how they pay their taxes, that will affect their whole social responsibility, that will affect pollution. So that is why for us we focus at that beginning, initial stage of mining. So before starting the project, because we are an institution that prides itself on research and evidence, this is the research that we did in terms of what are the corruption risks that are found at the initial stage of mining. And some of the risks are highlighted in this booklet. So this has guided our work as an accountable mining project. So some of the risks identified were issues to do with how mining licenses are consented to by traditional leaders. That is a weakness in that sometimes, because mining companies are so strong, when they approach traditional leaders to get that consent to use their land for mining, there are corruption risks where there are bribes that can take place. The chief can be given anything in exchange for his consent, really for the mining license. Another risk that we identified had to do with the environmental impact assessment. whereas communities do not participate as they should in environmental impact assessment. But also the process can be quite technical, that communities do not understand how to participate in such processes. So that has been our work, working with traditional leaders, raising awareness on issues to do with free, prior and informed consent. So free, prior and informed consent is a principle that basically focuses on when mining licenses are given and the chief has to consent, communities have to be involved in that process. So that process has to be free, that is, the communities are willing. Prior, the community should have information beforehand. Informed, they should have the information to make an informed decision, and consent, they should agree and say, okay, this mining company should come into our area and operate, and we call that a social license to operate, where the community is accepting of mining development and projects. So just to highlight a bit on what accountable mining is.
Okay, so let me find out from you, how has been the response so far from the traditional leaders themselves, their subjects, and from the general public? How have they received your awareness programs?
I think the project has been received very well as a national level, because we do work with the Ministry of Mines and Minerals Development, and we work with the Zambia Environmental Management Agency, because they're the overall authority when it comes to environmental impact assessment, and we've been working in partnership with them, highlighting some of the corruption risks and gaps that we identify. And then from there, we now also community working with traditional leaders. As Transparency International Zambia, we're part of the Zambia Alternative Mining Endeavor, and we have engaged traditional leaders through that. And they have highlighted some of the risks, they have highlighted some of their challenges, but we now take that to a one-on-one advocacy where we give them more information about the principle of free, prior, and informed consent, and why it really is important to get the community involved in mining license decision making. With the communities, they've been very much receptive, because from them there's never been that link between the mining company and themselves, or the mining company and the traditional leaders. So we are bridging the gap exactly with information and trying to make sure that in these host mining communities, communities are coexisting with mining companies, because what you will find most times is when you go in and you engage the community, they're saying, oh, these are the issues that we're experiencing, this mining company is doing this and this, our traditional leaders are doing this. So as Transparency International, we're bridging that gap with information, saying, okay, as a community, these are your rights to engage the traditional leaders on these issues, to engage the mining company on these issues. But before that engagement, of course, as Transparency International, we give them information and build their capacity as communities.
Okay, so just kindly tell us about this booklet here, Land Administration in Zambia, Guide to Corruption-Free Acquisition of Land. I think you touched on that, but just kindly tell us about this particular booklet.
So this booklet was produced as part of our land project, and I would ask our expert, Mr. Walia, to give more information about the land administration in Zambia.
So viewers, this is Mr. Walia, a land expert from Transparency International Zambia, TIZ. So Mr. Walia, we would like to find out from you exactly what is contained in this booklet, and the purpose for having such a booklet released to the general public.
All right, thank you very much. Land administration in Zambia is one critical aspect which is very important, because you know that to be a Zambian, to be a national, you need to have land. And this land is bestowed in the name of the president. It is administered by the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, and it is also given to local authorities. The key question is, so the key question we try to address in this booklet is, how can an ordinary citizen acquire this land, either from the local authority or from the Ministry of Lands? What are the processes that are involved, and what do you need to do? What do you need to see for you to acquire this land?
So it is a guide.
So this is a guide actually, and it is based on the Land Act, not so the procedures that are provided there. Now, why are we doing this? We know that corruption hides in people not understanding the processes, not knowing what to handling the processes, not knowing what to do, where to go, and who to see. So what we try in this book is to make it very simple in terms of the steps individuals are supposed to follow in order to acquire land. For example, when land is advertised, what is the next step? You may ask, who am I supposed to see and what follows what? So this is basically what we try to do. I know this booklet was produced some time ago, and we know that with the change of the policy, especially if the current draft policy is approved, there will be changes. But basically it gives us the guides in terms of the processes, what to do, what kind of information you require to have for you to access land, especially in the traditional setups.
Mr. Bode, thank you so much for your time. I'm sure our viewers out there are delighted that you have explained to them about that you have a guide that can guide them in land acquisition and the procedures involved. Thank you so much.
Thank you, very welcome.
Okay. So as we begin to wind up, like I mentioned earlier, that we are here in, at anti-corruption at Transparency International Zambia. In the gallery, we have seen that there is ACCA, Anti-Corruption Commission, as well as TIZ displaying their booklets and educating people.
2 minutes.
Okay, so we have our official here just guiding us that we shouldn't wind up, but we can do 2 minutes with her. We find out from her. So just stay tuned, don't go away. So you can introduce yourself to our viewers out there. They're eager.
Let me take these things off.
Okay.
Even better.
Okay.
So my name is Tiz Press Briefing. I'm the project officer under the Open Contracting for Health project. So the Open Contracting for Health project is basically looking at procurement. It takes us through the tendering processes, the planning process, the contracting process, and the implementation process. So what we want to do is to enhance transparency, integrity, and ensure that there is fairness in the way the procurement systems are carried out. So as Open Contracting, what we've been promoting is making sure that there's information readily available to the suppliers. Who are the people that are interested in supplying goods and services to the government? And at the same time, we want to ensure that the procurement entities are the people that are responsible under the government to ensure that all these procurement processes are taking place in a clear manner, are also including the information and the right capacity. So work with ZPPA. ZPPA, I'm sure you're aware of ZPPA, so we don't have a record. But we're doing a lot of capacity building in terms of the e-governance procurement system. So this is a system that which we are promoting nowadays. We're trying to get rid of and trying to ensure that everyone uses the e-governance system, which is fair and transparent. So meaning that whoever is using this e-governance system, they'll be able to go online and do whatever it is, whatever business they want to do. So this also will reduce corruption. It will reduce the exchange of whatever it is in the procurement. So this will also help us in terms of transparency and ensure that when we are doing the processes, everything is done. It also helps us also to increase the competition, because when you start the competition, a lot of suppliers come to us and complain that this is the market.
We want to be there when we go there.
Then we can approach the table for snacks. The vice chapter president is leading the way. Let us point our test.
At least each competitor out there is aware of what is available, so that they're able to pick up that and also just go to the governance system and apply it.
How many brochures with you that we can display for our viewers?
Yes, we have these ones that are just talking about open contracting, basically, which just talks about what it is that we are advocating for. It looks at the planning stage, the tendering stage, the awarding stage, contracting, and the implementation. It takes you through the processes and what is expected, and in terms of red flags, what you can look out for. Yeah, exactly. And then this one is what can open contracting do for you. It also just basically gives you basic information what open contracting will do. So basically, this project focuses on health.
Okay. So let's say, for instance, there is a supplier out there just watching us, tuned into KBN, and they would like to find out, can they come to TIZ offices and acquire these brochures, or just get guidance
on what they are supposed to do?
Yeah, they can come to the office. They can also go on the ZPPA website, and they can get all the information that they need. Remember, I mentioned that we're working with ZPPA, so all the information on the ZPPA is on the ZPPA portal. So that means that we are just trying to ensure that there is transparency. But you can, if you need more information, anything that you need to do with open contracting, you can visit our offices, our transparency offices at 128 Mabula Road, or visit the ZPPA portal.
Okay, so there you have it, viewers out there, open contracting for the health sector. So you can come through at TIZ offices, or you can visit the ZPPA portal. It has been made efficient. If you have a smartphone, even much better.
Yes.
You can be able to acquire that information and get informed, well informed, so that you don't have those complaints coming into Transparency International Zambia. Thank you very much for your time. So I can go with you?
Yes, you can.
Okay, so they are giving out brochures. You can come through and get some of these brochures right here at Transparency International Zambia, TIZ. We are streaming live from TIZ. We are from the gallery there, where they had a joint display of brochures and booklets with Anti-Corruption Commission in the fight against corruption. So I'll echo the minister's words yesterday, Honorable Given Luminda, the Minister of Justice. He did make mention that the fight against corruption requires concerted efforts from different stakeholders, and we have seen that from the Anti-Corruption Commission side, they have booklets catering for grade 1s to till grade 12. So make sure that the fight against corruption starts from the home. Children need to be educated about corruption, the ills of corruption. From me and the entire team here at Transparency International Zambia, we are saying thank you very much to all our viewers that tuned in to this very, very important press briefing that took place, a joint press briefing that took place of the Executive Director, Mr. Morris Nyambe, and the Vice President as well, Madam Anne, the Vice President Chapter of Transparency International Zambia. Thank you very much. We do appreciate your association with the Finest Television. We are crossing over to the studio now. Thank you.
Tifuna nzika zonse za dziko la Zambia kuteka kumbali kuvota kulembetsa kwa bungwe la Electoral Commission of Zambia kuteka kumbali pa masankho a chaka cha 2021 kuzambika pa tsiku la 9 Novemba kufika pa tsiku la 12 December chaka chino cha 2020. Nzika zonse za dziko la Zambia zomwe zili ndi chinkhope cha Green National Registration Card zifunika kukhala ndi zaka 18 ndizopitirira ndiponso azakwanitsa zaka zobadwa 18 pa tsiku la 9 May chaka cha 2021 kapena pomwe tsikuli likalibe kufika ndiololedwa kulembetsa ngati oteka kumbali kuvota pa masankho mchaka cha 2021. Ngati simulembetsa ndiye kuti simuzavotako pa masankho a chaka cha 2021. Lembetsani kuvota ndi kutenga khadi yatsopano. Kumbukirani kuti makhadi akale ovotera sazagwira ntchito pa masankho a 2021. Lembetsani kuvota ndi ufulu wanu. Lembetsani kuvota ndi ufulu wanu. Uthenga uyu wachokera ku bungwe la Electoral Commission of Zambia, ECZ.